us, the Mouse, with our thoughts on episode 4 of season 2 of My Ducks Game Changers. And we got draft day, wowing! Oh, I was so looking forward to seeing, how this draft was gonna go down. I mean, it was because we've had Coach Cole sort of been bigging it up since the beginning of the season, and now it's here, and it's just like, It was so amazing, wasn't it? Because they actually made it look like a proper draft, I mean, shall we get Yoppie up? Because, no, okay, it's one guest enough for you, Wildwing. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we have got another guest coming up later on, but I think one's enough for Wildwing. Alright, okay. But it generally did feel like we were actually, watching them actually hold like a proper... It had all the feels like a proper NHL draft. So, of course, the reason we had, obviously, this year was in Montreal. But yeah, so it generally did have all the feels when NHL draft. And I really loved the shenanigans that Alex and Nick got up to in trying to secure draft picks. It's like, you got me wondering, is this how we do it in the NHL? Is this how they do it? Do you reckon that's how they do it well? How they go and get their draft picks? Oh dear, but yeah, it was quite funny. And what was interesting, the draft as a whole, it generally felt like an NHL draft. Like, you think a certain team's going to pick one way, and then they go completely opposite. Absolutely, just brilliant. It's just absolutely just amazing to watch. It was just brilliant. Okay, so draft day is approaching, and for kids there, their rankings now are going to be locked in for this part of the season, and well, technically this part of the summer. So we got to see how that unfolded, and unsurprisingly, Eben really now. I think what this episode did was confirm my suspicions back in episode 1, where I felt that this season Eben's going to try and not really be a team player. He's going to be focusing more about his own individual goals and where he wants to go in terms of his hockey ambitions, sort of the Bertway for the team. We saw it last year when he had that one episode where he was literally spend time with the with Coach T's Ducks. So how that went down. So it was probably, so this is kind of been bubbling up the last few weeks, and it's only been this episode where that literally boils to the surface, and we get the next result, which also sees a surprise train to Splitsville. We don't see Evan and Sophie. They're now no longer in a relationship. Yes, they're no longer in a relationship. So yeah, make that what you will. Okay, so as we all know, Alex became a coach at the end of last week's episode after the shenanigans of the Coach Classic, which we kind of knew was going to end in tears. And so they do this like the draft lottery, to organise, which order the coach is going to pick. And I just thought, this is going to be rigged. This is going to be rigged, and it was not a surprise to me that Coach Cole got first. He was trying to go, I didn't pick it, look at the balls, my ass! He's so rigged that, yeah, even Wild Wings agree, yeah, he rigged it, 100% rigged, he so rigged it so his ball will come out first. We have to see all of us get picked, and obviously, unfortunately, Alex is sort of last, so she has the number 8 pick. So yeah, not very good past there. But what I thought was really interesting is how they spend the rest of the episode, her and Nick, getting involved in these quite devious, underhanding, conniving tactics to try and get up and up and up. So what was to eventually the number 1 pick. Because, right, before we get to that, obviously, Evan is obviously 50 already so far. Just one more thing about Evan before we get into the little shenanigans of the draft of the picks. With Evan, he's clearly trying to distance himself from not just the Ducks, but also for his mom as well. We saw it last week. This week it's got even more further because he's clearly like, please don't pick me, please don't pick me! It's quite hilarious because we had 2 coaches, both with children there, and the children were, please don't pick, please don't pick me. But I just thought they're gonna pick them, so I was a bit shocked when we saw the draft later on. They didn't get picked. But let's focus more on the shenanigans between Alex and Nick. So I, of course, is stuck with after that draft lottery with the number 8 pick, which basically last. And so Nick comes over, tries to give a little pep talk after all the work she did to keep him there. And so he decides, right, I'm going to take you on my wing, and I'm going to see if we can get you up picks. And I think in this episode, what for me, I think if being a player doesn't work out for Nick, I think he's got a great future as a general manager. Because the way he handled that was just absolutely it was genius. Like, oh, this is textbook glory I'm watching. It's like, wow, it's a wizard at work. Because he managed to come up with all these different ways of how to get the other coaches to hand over their picks to Alex. And I thought, yeah, there's no way she's going to do it. Each time I thought, yeah, no, there's no way she's going to do it. I even did think that when she got to pick number 3, I thought, you might have pushed your luck here. Given what she had to do to get pick number 2. I thought maybe you should have just stuck at 3. But no, she worked the way up to getting to pick number 2. And I thought, this is absolutely brilliant. And it just made me thought, is this really what happens at the NHL draft? Is this really what general managers do? You know, cut with snivelling, sleazy, conniving tactics to try and get a better pick. Is this what they do? Because it even happens during, if you've watched an NHL draft in previous years, you know that even during the draft themselves, when teams go on the clock, as we call it, some teams will actually swap picks around as the draft's going on, because they can't not really made a decision yet, or they think they can hold out for something better. But yeah, so it's literally non-stop. This is what always sort of annoys me about the draft of the NHL each year. You get the order for all 7 rounds, but I just look at that and think, well, chances are that order's not going to stick, because chances are during the actual days, the 2 days of the draft, some teams might do some jostling with picks as they literally are going on the clock. That's what we had missing for this episode, didn't we? With someone saying, Coach Cole or Coach Alex, you're on the clock. We had that missing, didn't we? That would have made it full play draft. Yeah, but yeah, so I thought it was quite brilliant. And very brilliant of Nick there to help Alex to climb up a lot until eventually she got to the number 1 pick. And the way she managed to do that on her own was just absolutely brilliant and just absolutely just pure genius. So well done there. So in terms of the draft night as a whole, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Because they made it, because this is supposed to be a summer camp, they really made it look like, they spruced up well, they made it look like we were actually, watching, live coverage of the most recent NHL draft, which of course this year took place in Montreal. And in fact, in terms of rigged lotteries, Montreal this year actually did end up getting the number 1 pick for this draft we had this year. But actually, it was the first time in quite a while that had happened. Yeah, because did you have pick number? Or was that last year? Was that last year you had one of the top 3 picks? Was it last year? Yeah, last year. Sorry, I'm getting after. But yeah, but what's interesting is that in terms of getting all the drafters for that number 1 overall pick, this had been the first time in a very, very long while that the host team had got the number 1 overall pick. So yeah, but I was trying to see if I can find that stat, but I don't think we're going to find it, will we? We got. So yeah, so it was the first time since 1985 the team hosting the draft selected the first overall pick. In that year, back in 1985, the draft was hosted in Toronto. The NHL draft hasn't really moved around that lot in terms of teams hosting it. It mainly has been just stuck in Canada, really. It's only been like the last few years it's really seen any sort of movement. In fact, let me bring it on. I know this is going off topic, but it's fine. But yeah, because since the first draft in 1963, so from 1963 all the way up to 1984, it was in Montreal. And then in 1985, it went to Toronto. Then Montreal got it back in 86. And then from 1987 onwards, that's where you've had like the variety in teams hosting. So in 1987, Detroit became the first American city, I should say, to host it. Then it went back to Montreal in 88. Then it's been all over the place ever since. So then in 89, Minnesota. 1990, Vancouver. 91, Buffalo. More on them in a moment. 92, went back to Montreal. 93, went to Quebec. Back in the days where we had the Quebec Nordiques, who of course are now the Colorado Avalanche. In 94, it was Hartford, back when we had the Hartford Whalers, who of course are now the Colorado Hurricanes. 95, went to Edmonton. St. Louis in the year I was born, 1996. That's who hosted the year I was born, Wild Wing. Although I was born in November of 96. This was born in held in the summer. 97 was Pittsburgh. Buffalo hosted it again in 98. Buffalo in 1999. The Calgary Flames hosted it at the turn of the millennium in 2000. Then Florida got it in 2001. Toronto 2002. Nashville, who are next year's host, so in 2023, they hosted it in 2003. So I think it's going to be a good 20 years since Nashville last hosted it, from when we come to this time next year. Then we had Carolina in 2004, Ottawa in 2005, in 2006 was Vancouver, 2007 Columbus, 2008 Ottawa, 2009 Montreal, in 2010 it went to LA. I don't think I've ever hosted it, and I don't think you have either, Robin. But we'll go on. We'll carry on. We may as well. We've started till fish, as they say on Mastermind. So what are we up to? 2011. So 2011 was Minnesota. 2012 was Pittsburgh. In 2013, New Jersey. 2014, Philadelphia. 2015 was Florida. 2016, Buffalo. 2017, Chicago. 2018 was Dallas. Then 2019, Vancouver. And then the last 2 years, so 2020 and 2021, because of COVID, they held it at the AHL Network Studios in New Jersey. And then obviously this year's that's taken place was in Montreal. So it's only really been since the kind of the late 80s. So what was it, 89, 87? Yeah, 87. So it's only sort of like the late 80s and 87 when the actual draft started to move around a lot. But good first portion of the actual draft in play was in Montreal. But then since 1987, it's been spread around a lot. We've yet to host it while we are two sides, but hey, there's still time. But what I really love is how they made it like feel like it was we were watching a proper draft take place. I really was loving it. It actually made like a proper, draft weekend. It was just sort of really interesting to see. And I just love how I was sort of sprucing up and everything. Even Alex, woo! Didn't she look fancy? Didn't she dressed up well in a pretty dress? I loved that. Wow, it's lovely. I mean, did we see her dress last season? I don't know we did we? Because didn't she had to help out at the Spirit of the Dogs event? Yeah, as a worker. Yeah, so we didn't get to see her dress there, but didn't she scrub up? Well, she looked lovely. Loved with her dress. It was very lovely, very pretty. It was very lovely. So, on to the draft itself. Now, before we started, Coach and listen, we've got to bring a special guest now, okay? Right, okay. So, right. So, special guest coming up now. So before the draft got underway, Coach Carl did a little speech talking about his heyday back when because remember, he used to be an actual player, yo. Does like to barrel out, doesn't he? But okay, well, which team did he play for? Now, I would have thought Coach Carl would have been maybe drafted sort of, let's say, the 80s or the 90s. So you have to try and figure the teams who were big back then. Now, of course, back in the 90s, our two sides were only just joining. So, back in those days, you have to think of what were the teams that were kind of dominating. So, should we try? So, maybe he could have been an Islander. Because obviously, that team, the Islanders, despite the fact the Rangers was the original six franchise, it was really the Islanders that kind of put New York on the map into the hockey scene with that Dallas dynasty that has yet to be replicated. I mean, I know the Lightning have tried to come close over the last few years, but of course their reign fell short after last year. So the Islanders could have been a team maybe to consider. The Oilers could have been an option because they were kind of because basically the 80s, in terms of the Stanley Cup finals, were kind of dominated between Islanders, Oilers. In fact, if you look up the list of champions of the Stanley Cup in the 80s decade, you probably will only see not that many teams, because the cup either went to Edmonton or it went to the Islanders. And in fact, if we look it up, I've got the list here, so the first kind of 4 years were dominated by the Islanders, so between 1980 to 1983, and then 84, it was won by the Oilers, who dispatched the Islanders to stop a 5 straight cups. So the Oilers then dominated, and they win 84, 85, 86 was Montreal, and then Oilers win it back the year later, 87, 88, and the last, and 89, and 89 was played by Calgary. So only 4 teams back in the 80s decade won the Stanley Cup. So could he have been? So could he have been an Islander? Could he have been a Oiler? A Canadian, maybe? An original 6 team, because they were dominated by as well. It was hard to pick what he could be. And when he did the reveal, I literally couldn't believe it. So Coach Cole reveals in this episode that he was drafted. Wait for it. Up you come. He got drafted by the Buffalo Sabres. Hello, Sabretooth! Do you want to do a little quick wave to all your fellow Buffalo fans? Do a quick wave. I think you're a bit timid because they're thinking about that. Literally, when Coach Cole said that, when he said to say this, I literally laughed my head off because I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Buffalo, of all the teams, right? This is no disrespect to all you Buffalo fans, and I love your now royal blue look. Don't change that royal blue look. You look gorgeous in it. But Buffalo hasn't really been a dominant team in the NHL. In fact, if we bring up the Sabres trophy cabinet, this is going to be a bit of a shock now. Have you got any Sabretooth? Because me and Warwick have a fair few combined. In fact, me and Warwick still hold the record for most division titles in the Pacific. Let's look you up, Sabretooth. Oh yeah, you pull a few. So the Sabres have won 3 conference championships. So you have made a few Stanley Cup final appearances. So you won 3 conference titles. So in 1975, 1980, and of course in 1999. In the 06-07 season, you won the President's Trophy, and you've won 6 division titles. The most recent being in the 2009-10 season. So those division titles are 74-75 was your first one, 79-80, 80-81, 96-97, 06-07, your most recent one, 09-10. So if you could back, so that's 10 And of course, you've yet to win the Stanley Cup. So that's 10 trophies all in all. If you take all your trophies combined together, that's 10 overall. So not bad. So you have to say, but so you can say so you have won some. It's just the Sabres really have one of the few teams that have really struggled to get off the ground, really, and they do as we speak. Recording this show in October on the 20th of October 2022. The Buffalo Sabres do currently hold the longest active streak in terms of playoff drought, which currently stands at 11 seasons, and that currently does stand as a record, so it's not looking good for Sabretooth. I'm not too sure this season if you're going to get back the Ibis Sabretooth, you might be making that to 12. So I literally was laughing my head off because I was like, really? Because Coach Cole so far has been kind of like this sort of big, aggressive sort of going to be, it's not really going to be, aggressive player. So you think a player like that, which should be a team that has had loads of trophies, like Detroit or Montreal or even the Oilers or the Islanders, one of those teams, not Buffalo, who, well, their record's not too shabby. I mean, let's face it, 10 trophies as a whole, that's not something to sniff at. That is not too shabby. But Sabretooth, you along with Vancouver are currently the oldest teams to have never won the Stanley Cup. Ever since the Blues won it. It used to be the Blues. Don't, he's going to try and come over. Don't. Stay where you are, Louis. Look, you can't see him in the camera. He's trying to come over. Oh, God. Over. No. I know. Keep an eye on Huawei. Keep an eye on them. Yeah, it used to be the Blues, and then when they were in 2019, that title then transferred to both the Sabres and the Canucks because they both ride in the exact same year. But yeah, but kid you not, when I watched those, I was laughing my head when it said brother because I thought, really? Given the type of personality you're portraying and the type of characters you're showing, I wouldn't have thought you would have picked Buffalo. But there was a shock. That was a shock. But speaking of shocks, is it okay? Can you like that? So I can help. Yeah, okay, good. Right. Speaking of shocks, we then now come on to the overall draft, and I thought, right, Coach Cole's going to pick his son, and Alex is going to pick her son, despite Evan saying, "Please don't pick me! Please don't pick me! Please don't pick me!" Okay, I thought there they go. So I was both very shocked when on Alex's first pick she went for Nick, but he kind of proved it in the episode. He kind of proved his worth. He actually kind of proved why he should have been picked first and be the first person to get picked in the draft, which literally took everybody by surprise. And so they should. Right? Nick may not have good ice. May not be good on the ice, but away from the ice, he's got really great caliber. Like I say, I think Nick could be a future general manager. I'm just saying he really could, or attack. Or an NHL or a town scout, for future for when it comes to this time of the year. I can see Nick having a great career in hockey off the ice if it doesn't work out for him on the ice. But yeah, so yeah, good for you, Nick. Gets picked first, and then obviously Coach Cole doesn't pick his son first, and in fact his son gets saved till last. Because as the draft was going on, I thought, I see what Axe is doing. She's picking all the ducks. And it wasn't a surprise when we got to the last pick. She had basically picked all the ducks, except Evan went over to Cole's team because Cole did pick him. So Evan's dream comes true, gets picked by somebody he's looking up to. And so the last pick, she's not sure who to choose. And then Sophie comes up and says, well, actually, why don't we pick Jace? And I was like, yeah, sure. Okay. And they do pick him. So, there we go. So we get to the end of the draft. We end the draft with the team names. And, oh my word. What were these team names? Because they had to have the caps and the team. And each coach kept putting their cap on and saying, I was like, I was like, they were made. It's like, what are these team names? And of course, Coach Cole's team name is going to be Dominate. Well, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised it wasn't kill or slaughter for Coach Coles. Or actually, no, Slaughter would have been Coach T's last season. That would have been Coach T's Slaughter. But I'm not surprised Coach Coles was like, what are these things supposed to be? So thank God for Alex when she put her caps on. She went, Mighty Ducks. I'm like, phew. You've got to remember, this is technically still Mighty Ducks Game Changers. I know, given these first few episodes, it kind of feels like you're in a different show. But that's kind of how the second film went. In terms of the trilogy, the second film, even though it's still technically Mighty Ducks, it was technically still a Mighty Ducks film, it was a completely sort of different storyline for that sort. Right, and that's kind of what this season had. This season's kind of been like Mighty Ducks 2. The Ducks are still there. It's just a different story. It's a completely different story than we might expected. So thank God Alex puts the cap on with the Mighty Ducks on. So it's like, yeah, brilliant. So that means okay, the Ducks are still there. It's just now, and now we're going to see them actually compete against these teams. And I love how she kept saying the Ducks fly together. Need to remember that. That needs to get put on a t-shirt. Yes. Well, agrees. We should make them, shouldn't we? Yes, we should make them. We should make them, shouldn't we? Could sell a fortune. we can split the profits for 50-50 for our respective teams. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Sarah, too. You don't get a look in. But obviously now it kind of sets interesting for going forward, because now it seems like we're going to get like a mini tour now, aren't we? Because I can totally see now. You spend the next couple of weeks, seeing these teams train together, how the dynamics go, and then eventually we get like a mini tournament for like probably the last sort of 3 episodes of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how the dynamics work, because you've got all the Ducks back together except for Eben. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jace fits into the fold. But I think he'll fit in just fine. I think he'll fit. Now he knows he's not going to be on coat with his barber, he can relax a bit more, and he won't have the pressures that his barber would have bestowed on him had his barber still gone ahead and picked him for the draft like I think he wanted to do. So I think Jace is going to... I think by being with the Ducks, Jace is going to rediscover that love for hockey. He just doesn't quite know it just yet, but he will. Trust me, he will, so yeah. And of course, interesting is how Eben and Sophie, this is kind of sort of finish it off, they've boarded the train to Splitsville! Choo-choo! Now, this I think was kind of a bit forced, and a bit sort of rushed, but you kind of did sow the seeds last week, didn't we, of this possibly being something in the pipelines. Because we saw last week the possibility of a triangle was maybe forming, but thankfully that's been nipped in the bud. For now, at least. For now. At the moment it looks like we're not going to go anywhere near that, but it would not surprise me if sort of later on, down the line, it would not surprise me if that gets brought up again. It'd be interesting to see what happens, but yeah. But it did kind of feel very, very forced, this breakup. It doesn't kind of done naturally. Because we haven't really had emails where they've really been all sort of WWE or gone out on dates or anything. They've kind of been, any dates we've seen them do have been sort of unofficial ones. So yeah. But anyway, a really great episode. I was really looking forward to this one. I was really looking forward to see how their portrayal of a draft. I was waiting to see how it's going to happen. I was not disappointed. And for me, the highlight episode was obviously seeing Nick and Alex going up to their devious and crafty ways to try and work their way up the ladder. And even Coach Cole was surprised that she managed to get up to number 2. And was probably even more shocked when she managed to get the number 1 pick off him. It's like, it was brilliant. Because I did think Alex was sort of pushing her luck. When she got to number 2, I thought, right, you're pushing your luck there. But the fact she was able to get number 1, hats off to her. Genius. Well done, girl. Well done. It was absolutely brilliant. So it's just getting better and better and better. It's just like, I want more. I really hope. Oh, it's just like, I'm just loving it. It's really good. This was a little gem last season. And for me, it's just been, it's like we've just picked up where we left off. The momentum just keep going and going and going. So long may that continue. I'm just been loving it. Absolutely loving it. And that, well, you're biased. you're biased. You're biased. You have to love it. Your name's on the bloody title. Honestly. Even 72's like, yeah, you can't. You're biased. Oh dear. But that was a shock. That was a shock because I did not think Coach Cole was going to be a saber. I had no. Honestly, 72. It's no offense to you. You're lovely. You're lovely, and I love your team wearing royal blue. Keep that. You're lovely. It's no offense to your team or your fans. It's about any Buffalo Sabres fan watching. I hold no offense. It's just you're not really setting the world on fire right now, are you? No. But we can talk. But hey, no. But I did not see that code. Given Cole's personality, what we've seen, and his kind of what I was expecting to have been more on an aggressive team, I did not pick him being a saber. But yeah, but let's keep it up. Keep this going up because it's just great. I'm just loving it. Really loving it. Well, sadly, that's what we've got time for today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've loved the show, do click the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I recommend clicking the subscribe button. That way, once you have subscribed to the channel, you never miss a single moment where you comment constantly including brand episodes of Plus the Mouse. And don't forget, you can ring the bell to stay up to date with all the latest content. Until next time, it's goodbye from Sabretooth. Bye-bye to you. It's farewell from Wild Wing. We'll let him party. And from me until next time, all that's left for me to say is au revoir.